It's waxing lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford, just after finishing a penguin. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Vastly underrated chocolate biscuit. Don't call it chocolate bar because it's not. We're going to go down this whole rabbit hole because we all know that Twixes are not chocolate bars, they're biscuits.
So first of all, a penguin is a biscuit. Obviously, it's a factually accurate statement. A singular Twix is a biscuit. A double Twix is a chocolate bar. It's a clean definition, clean divider of the definition between a biscuit and a bar.
Okay.
I won't hear anything else about it, and I'm talking to you, fat pants, and you know I am. Inside joke there. If this week on Waxing Lyrical, we're going to look at the 2-0 teams, and we're going to say, are you ready to start the parade, or is it time to tell everybody to calm down? And then we're going to look at the 0-2 teams and find out which teams need blowing up and which teams have still got a chance to make the NFC or AFC title game. We're going to do the standard fancy stuff. Neil's going to give us a fancy darling and a fancy loser. And then we're going to give you our DraftKings daily fantasy teams of the week. Mine's got a couple of massive hot takes in as well.
My team last week, by the way, was tremendous. I hope people, if they actually do take advice, I hope they did lock in the Alan Diggs stack, as it worked wonderfully well.
It did. On that note, Neil, and talking about 2-0, let's move on and let's plug into the mains and let's look at these 2-0 and 0-2 teams. So, Neil, a large number of 2-0 teams. Let's give a list. Ravens, Raiders, Steelers, Titans, Chiefs, Packers, Bears, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, and Bills. Give me one of those teams who you didn't expect to be on the hype train for, but you're just about to buy a ticket.
Well, I think, obviously I have a vested interest in the Raiders doing well because, did somebody say just eat? I think they might have done. However, having watched the games and seen the highlights, I've only got good things to say about the Green Bay Packers. Their offense is humming. Aaron Rodgers seems in complete command of it, and despite the absence of a strong supporting cast, they've played very well. Everything seems to be clicking. Obviously, it's going to be tested this week if Devontae Adams is hobbled, but we have seen that Aaron Jones can be a focal point for this offense. I mean, he had 236 yards from scrimmage on Sunday. That's the second most by a Green Bay Packer in franchise history. Now, this isn't a team that's 25 years old, nor is it a team that's had, a bunch of scrubs on offense over the years. This is one of the historic franchises. So for him to do something that impressive is worth noting, especially when you see how many other running backs, even in his own division, have been paid lately, and he's in a contract year. So very impressed with them. Obviously, they've played two weak teams, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and they've dismantled both teams that were in front of them very, very handily.
I'm going to go for a team that beat my team on Sunday, the Arizona Cardinals. There was some gentle hype regarding Kyler Murray for MVP. Gentle hype has started to increase. There's almost a groundswell. I think he's still a long way off Mahomes and Jackson, but he's started his sprint to the finish line. They're a really fun team to watch, and sometimes that's all you can ask for. Are they gonna make a run to the Super Bowl? Like, I think based on what you're saying on the Packers, you believe they may be able to. No, but I think they could be a playoff team, and based on where they were 2 years ago, to make that jump is something that the team should be seriously happy with and seriously impressed about. And it shows you what a franchise quarterback can give you, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously they're going to be slightly hampered by the fact that there are 3 2-0 teams in their division. So that would imply that there's a good chance the NFC West is going to spend the next 15 weeks kicking the crap out of each other. So I don't know how dominant a team we can expect. I don't know if we can expect to see a pair of dominant teams across the division, but I certainly think it's arguably the strongest division in football at the moment, especially when you consider if it wasn't for injuries, the 49ers would be a lot stronger. Whereas at the moment, they're the cellar dwellers, and they're coming off a dismantling of the New York Jets, which say what you want about it. But
Neil, is there a 2-0 team that you want everyone to cool their jets on? Not call the Chicago Bears, or is it just the Chicago Bears?
It's just the Chicago Bears. I still think that they're doing enough to get by. I think the case could be made that the Lions beat themselves in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Lions beat themselves by appointing Matt Patricia. So, if you start there, you're gonna lose out. First team in NFL history to blow double-digit leads in 4 consecutive games. But don't worry though, because the head coach once called a play that led to an interception in a Super Bowl. That was his defence, not mine. The Bears' defence has not looked great. It's done enough. Mitchell Trubisky has not looked great. He's done enough. This, as I say, I'm not criticising them. They've won. They're 2-0. Hats off to them. But when the real bullets start flying, I think they're going to be tested more. So it's hard for me to get too excited about it. But they're in a division with 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. So even though the Packers are doing very well, the other 2 are trash. So hats off to them for now.
Hats off to Neil for selling on his Vikings, but I'm sure we'll get on to them. You've got to praise the Raiders for being 2-0. I'm sure the Panthers are a JV team, and there were major concerns on the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. On Monday. Of all the teams, I think if I look at them, they're the ones with the exception of the Bears, which I'll still be surprised if they won 8 games. They're the ones who give me the most concern. I guess a special shout out, because we probably won't talk about them again, to the Buffalo Bills, who we've constantly laughed at their quarterback and laughed at their offense, and they're now throwing it more than like Air Coryell. And he's doing remarkably well. And isn't it nice when you've got a number 1 wide receiver?
Josh Allen, who before this season had never thrown for more than 270 yards in a game, threw for 300 in week 1, and then said, "Thought that was impressive. How about a 400-yarder?" And even more impressive, hasn't thrown an interception yet. Granted, he still has fumbling issues. There is still this "I'm going to be the hero" mentality that really he could do with honing in a bit, especially in weeks 1 and 2, as we saw in the playoffs. What happened?
Yeah,
they haven't played anyone. I think you finally have. They've played 2 teams like everyone else has, and they've beaten them very, very handily. So we said this about Lamar and the Ravens last year. Bollocks. You beat who you are. You are who your record is. But hats off to him. But let's, for fantasy, obviously he's doing very well. But let's see if he can keep it going when the meat of their schedule is encountered.
0-2 teams, Neil. Who do we believe the Sports Talk Radio disaster about? List of teams: Dolphins, Jets, Bengals, Texans, Broncos, Giants, Eagles, Lions, Vikings, Falcons, and Panthers. Which one of those teams would you be hitting the immediate panic button on?
Well, in 2003, the Eagles went 0-2 and scored 10 points in the first 2 games. Their leading wide receivers in that season were Todd Pinkston and James Thrash, and they got to the NFC Championship game. So I'm not prepared to bite the bullet on the Eagles just yet. The Vikings are absolutely dog shit, and I'm terribly sorry. I'm not prepared to make any excuses for how dog shit Kirk Cousins looked against a workman-like Colts defense. But it wasn't exactly the 2000 Ravens. Oh my God, he looked awful. He was throwing absolute lollipops up, just begging to be picked off. According to Numberfire's net expected points metric, which is looks at per play efficiency and gives every player a grade in terms of every play from every spot on the field. He averaged 0.46 net expected points per dropback. Only one quarterback in 2019 had a worse game than that. That was Mason Rudolph against the Cleveland Browns in the game that someone tried to remove his own head with a helmet. we've only had 2 weeks, but Cousins is already on historic pace for how bad he looks. So, terribly sorry, I got them wrong. Oh God, did I get them wrong? They look awful. They look lost. Their only good players are running back, and as we've said, they don't matter. Obviously they do matter, but if your lone calling card is we've got one of the best running backs in the league, but the offensive line is terrible, the quarterback's crap, and we can't actually stop anyone, you're not winning anything. It's too easy to say the Jets as well, isn't it?
Well, the Jets stink, and we knew the Jets were going to stink, so I don't think that counts.
The problem is that all these 0-2 teams.
Yeah, but I want to know what Dan Smith's got on Arthur Blank to still have a job with the Atlanta Falcons after what happened on Sunday.
Whatever it is, I think it can't last for long. I genuinely think the only reason he hasn't been fired is that Arthur Blank doesn't. There's nothing out there that Arthur Blank wants to bring in, and he doesn't really want to hand over the reins to any of these assistants. I think he literally wants a full cleaning of the house. So he's almost going to be prepared to eat this season. Because that loss, I'm terribly sorry, is absolutely inexcusable. The Super Bowl was a catastrophe. What happened on Sunday and the manner of how it happened is absolutely inexcusable.
The other team I'm interested in is the Denver Broncos. They lose Drew Lock for a number of weeks. Their backup is Jeff Driscoll. I'm not saying Drew Lock was the second coming of John Elway. That was what John Elway said. That team now may struggle to win games because they're probably going to struggle to score points. The defense looked decent against Pittsburgh, I think, but that's a major concern.
Obviously, we'd be remiss if we didn't point out the fact that the Houston Texans are 0-2 as well, thanks to not the friendliest opening 2 games you could ask for. The 2 best teams in the NFL back to back. There's a good chance they're going to go 0-3 this week as well. But we said at the start of the season the GM was going to get the coach fired. Yeah. The coach now has to work with what the GM has saddled him with, and the GM has saddled him with a team that doesn't look like it's working on offense. And when you pay mega bucks to your quarterback, you pay mega bucks to his left tackle, but you give him no one to throw to. Well, why did you do this, Bill? What's been achieved here? Do we feel like we're winning here, Bill? Is this what we wanted, Bill?
On an unrelated note, it's not unrelated. Here are the quarterbacks that the Houston Texans face in the next few weeks. Ben Roethlisberger, Kirk Cousins, we've gone through him. Gardner Minshew, who's playing some of the best ball in the league. Ryan Tannehill, see Gardner Minshew comments. Then they play Aaron Rodgers. I hear he's doing okay this season. Then they play Gardner Minshew again. Then they play Baker Mayfield. Then they play Cam Newton. So if you think you've struggled with the 2 quarterbacks you've had, it isn't getting any easier. On a link note to the Texans, Dutton, how much did the Eagles give for Darius Slay? A third and a fifth.
Third and a fifth, yeah.
Would you prefer to have Darius Slay or DeAndre Hopkins?
I'd probably prefer to have DeAndre Hopkins at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Are any of these 0-2 teams, with the exception of the Eagles, who you feel have got some life in them?
No, it's very hard. I mean, most of these teams are 0-2 for a reason, and we expected them to be 0-2. As you say, the Broncos could crater. They could go double digits before they get a win. Yeah. The Dolphins, we knew they were going to struggle. You thought they'd be a bit feistier than I did.
But I think the Dolphins is the interesting one for me, right? Because if the Dolphins lose on Thursday night, there's a conversation starting about when Tua starts. And I
think like having basically the mini bye.
Well, I think they've got. I think they maybe not this week, but if I look at their schedule, if I remember correctly, when's their bye? Maybe no. So they play the Jags, and then they've got like a long week. So and then they play the Seahawks. You probably don't want him there. But then you play the banged up 49ers, Broncos, Chargers, Rams, Jets in back-to-back weeks, and you start thinking, do a play tour. So I still think that of those lot, they're maybe the feistiest.
Another one that we should look at and say that they are probably done and will take a few casualties down with them are the Giants, because their offense looked terrible with Saquon Barkley in it.
Yeah.
And he was struggling to get anything going behind that offensive line. Now he's gone. Sterling Shepard is hurt. Golden Tate is nicked up. Evan Ingram has shown he cannot really, truly be relied on. So you've got Darius Slayton and Daniel Jones, who's still doing Daniel Jones things. They could be awful. They could be historically bad. And it'd be interesting, if they go 4-12 or something like that, Dave Gettleman is gone. And then you have the risk. Then you have the problem that you have of you bringing in a GM who has no ties to the head coach. Can he work in it? And you're going to get a dysfunctional situation again, which isn't going to help anyone. And if they get a potentially very high pick, well, if you get a new GM, is he sold on Daniel Jones? Are you up high enough to get in the Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes? It's going to be very, very tough for anyone from this team to emerge with any great honour and credit in 2021. I don't think.
There's some of these teams who've got some really good quarterbacks who aren't, either really good quarterbacks or quarterbacks they seriously believe in, and who's going to make the draft very interesting if these teams don't start winning games rather fast. Neil, let's move on to fantasy. And let's find out who you believe this week is your fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
My fancy darling this week, we've seen that, there's probably going to be a longer-term change at quarterback now for the Los Angeles Chargers after some Dr. Nick Riviera-style medical malpractice.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
We saw... Oh, the coroner. I hate that guy. We saw that last week the offense looked good. It looked like an actual NFL offense. And a large part of that is the fact that they got Joshua Kelly involved. Now, Joshua Kelly had 23 carries, only 64 yards with a long of 7. But he did show some flashes in the receiving game as well. So he's seen in the past with the Chargers that they don't mind working in 2 running backs. Giving them carries and receptions. So there's a chance that Joshua Kelly is this year's Melvin Gordon. So I think that it's not going to be a disaster for Austin Eckler. I don't think it's going to be great for him, but I don't think it means he's a fantasy dud, just because Joshua Kelly is playing well. They're playing the Carolina Panthers this week, who are trash. Their defense is awful. They can't stop a runny nose. As I say, I think the positive game script, which is likely to happen, I think the best thing to do to aid in Justin Herbert's development will be get the lead and then lean on the power backs like the Josh Kelly and the Austin Eckler to see it through. So in terms of opportunity, I really like Joshua Kelly this week.
Neil, everyone can't be good, so let's find out who's bad, who's your fancy loser.
It's hard to call him a loser because he is still one of the biggest big play threats in the NFL. But I'm really not sanguine about Tyreek Hill's chances of a big game this week. The Chiefs obviously are playing on Monday night against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens' defensive backfield, it's taking a few blows. They're losing a few players. They lost Tavon Young's season-ending injury on Sunday. But I think, Tyreek Hill was kept quiet mostly against the Chargers, and then he goes up and has a 54-yard touchdown catch. So he's got that in him. Annoyingly, he's got that in him. But he has shown that he can sometimes fade out of a game. It will depend. I mean, if the Ravens shut down the run and we have to go full Mahomes and he's filling the air with footballs, then Tyreek and Travis Kelce are probably going to eat. But I think if it came down to they're going to have to lean on Tyreek Hill, I think they could be in a little bit of trouble. I mean, he has scored a touchdown in both games so far, but you still get the feeling that the Chiefs haven't really kicked into third gear yet. So maybe they have to, in order for Tyreek Hill to have a big game this week. But obviously with all the injuries around, if you've got him, you're obviously starting him. So there's no real concern there.
Fantastic, Neil. Let's move on and tell you who we believe are your best plays this week from a daily fantasy point of view?
Mainz and Dutts. Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Neil, who is your quarterback of your daily fantasy team this week from DraftKings?
Well, I will have to say that obviously the sad news about my team this week is there is no Christian McCaffrey, who, because he is injured and likely to be missing for the next 6 weeks, DraftKings knocked down his price by $500.
Yeah, so he was still 9,200. I was like, he's not playing.
Yeah. So, thanks for that, DK. But nevertheless, I'll move on. My quarterback this week is Dak Prescott. The Seahawks are the opponents for the Dallas Cowboys. This could be a barn burner because both teams look, pretty good on offense, but defensively look like arena league teams. So I think you look at what he did last week. It was historic. He had 450 passing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. He had the second most fantasy points by a Dallas Cowboy quarterback ever. And the Seahawks defense, it doesn't frighten me. And what frightens me is that, the bad thing about scoring on the Seattle Seahawks defense is it means you put Russell Wilson on the field, which obviously in fantasy and, in daily shootouts and whatnot is great. But for your own peace of mind, it's terrible. However, I will trust Dak Prescott here, 7,200.
Yeah, I've gone cheaper. I'm 6,800. I'm going for Kyler Murray, who's playing the Detroit Lions. Don't know Detroit Lions are bad. And what I like about Kyler Murray, in a similar vein to Lamar Jackson last year, you actually get 2 players in one, as you get a quarterback and a running back. It's always good news. He scored 2 touchdowns against Washington. The first one is ridiculous. I really wish someone would, get somewhere near him. Nearly as unbelievable as the invisibility cloak, the best wide receiver in that whole game and one of the top 5 wide receivers in the whole league managed to put on himself to get 15 yards away from all Washington defenders so Kyler Murray could play pitch and catch with DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray, 6,800.
Maybe Nuke smells.
Something happened because I watched it and you're like, is there a flag? Like, is he flattening someone? Do you know? No. You actually watch it and Landon Collins, veritable dead good against the run but can't cover, is seen holding his head in his hands thinking, I should have followed that guy. Yeah, yes, Landon, you should have. Yes, thank you. Who's your RB1, Neil?
RB1, the Indianapolis Colts are playing the New York Jets, so I will take $7,000 for Jonathan Taylor. He looked very, very good against the Vikings. The Vikings obviously were not great, but he looks like he's going to get yards every time he gets the ball.
And
of course, there will be positive,
well, which is weird.
Yeah, and of course, there's a very good chance that they will have positive game script in this game. Seriously, I don't know. I don't know what the world needs to see to be done with to not be done with Adam Gase. They had Sam Darnold throwing to a wide receiver core of Braxton Berrios, Chris Hogan, and I don't know, some of the clowns, but he kept Chris Herndon in to block. You're a moron, mate. You're an actual certifiable moron.
His owner called him, it called him an offensive genius on Wednesday before he did that as well.
Yeah, Fee is an offensive genius.
Different.
Yeah.
My running back one is the other side of your fantasy darling, Neil. It's Austin Eckler. He's 6,800. Carolina against the Chargers. Lots of play for Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. Probably multiple catches. I like Eckler a lot. And I think Justin Herbert likes him more than Anthony Lynn did. Who basically said, running backs are for punks after week 1.
Pretty much.
Who's your RB2, Neil?
RB2 is Miles Sanders. He's 6,400. He looked good against the Rams. Obviously had that unfortunate fumble to begin things, and things other than him pretty much spiral out of control after that. But yeah, he looked good. He handled the bulk of the carries. But Doug wants the committee. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So he handled the bulk of the carries. He got a few targets out the back. The Bengals defense is not good. We saw that they got dog walked by both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt last week. So I think if Miles Sanders is going to be the workhorse that we all hope he can be, the best thing for the Eagles offense at the moment now is find what works and keep doing it. And one thing that we have seen does work is putting the ball in Miles Sanders' hands. So I will take him this week.
Neil, on that, on the slight note on the Browns, did Chubb fans start fearing that they're going to have this kind of market share with Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, it's a problem. And the bad problem is that it's not going away. We saw last week that when the situation was in the Browns' favour, they didn't just lean on Nick Chubb. They mixed them both in. Now, it would be lovely if one of them would bugger off and we could essentially have an RB1 all to ourselves. But I don't want to wish any more injuries on anyone this season, especially not after last week. So I think it's going to have to be a case of you're going to have to hope that the Browns get very good very quickly and decide that they really don't need Hunt except to spell Chubb, or you try and get away from this situation as best you can.
In my running back 2 is David Montgomery, 5,700 Bears against the Atlanta Falcons. Not overly happy with it, but it's a money play, and he did well last week, and I expect him to do similarly well against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, that's it. The Falcons' defense is abysmal. They're not well coached. Matt Ryan is on course to break the all-time single-season passing record. The only bad thing is that the last few people who've broke that record went to the playoffs. He won't be.
No. Wide receiver 1, Neil.
My wide receiver 1 is I'm going for the the stack with Dak Prescott, and I'm going with Amari Cooper. He's 6,500. I think he is the one who's seeing the more consistent target share. Michael Gallup is seeing the ball further downfield, but he's not catching a great deal of them. So he's one of those that I think he's going to have a big day is coming for Michael Gallup. I just don't, the way I've constructed my team this week, I just don't want to be banking on it. So I'd rather take the safe call of Amari Cooper.
My wide receiver 1 is the best wide receiver who plays for the Atlanta Falcons.
Just engage?
No. Calvin Ridley, 7,200. Is a weird start and shows that Julio Jones actually sold his soul to the devil to become a beast who can't score, but unfortunately didn't read the fine print and said that he can't score touchdowns. He has the same number of touchdowns as Calvin Ridley. It took Julio 60 games. It took Calvin Ridley 31. Julio Jones is amazing, but is fearful of the end zone for no particular reason. I mean, he's not... We could almost blame Matt Ryan, but we can't because Russell Gage threw him an absolute dime in the Dallas game and he dropped it like in his hands. Unbelievable. 7,200, Calvin Ridley. I will continue on the things that you get considering we get a million things wrong on this show. I got Calvin Ridley right about a year ago, so I'm continuing to do that victory lap. And Calvin Ridley 7,200.
When Julio does drop dollies, he drops M&S dollies, doesn't he?
That was unbelievable. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's, come on, son. You're in year 10 now. You know, this shouldn't be happening.
Who's your wide receiver 2, Neil?
I'm running it back in the Dallas-Seattle game, and I've gone for Tyler Lockett. He's 6,400. The good thing about the fact that the Seahawks seem to be keeping the mentality of letting Russ cook is it's still a concentrated passing game. So it's Tyler Lockett, it's DK Metcalf, sprinkled in, with the running backs and the tight ends, but it's really those two. And I think the fact that DK is good for the big play, but again, Tyler Lockett has the nicer, safer floor, and he's probably due a couple of touchdowns himself. And I just don't think the Dallas defense is very good. So I think there's going to be high scoring, and I think I'm covered as well as I can be in that fixture.
Yeah, my wide receiver 2 had his biggest week in terms of fantasy points and yards from scrimmage ever last week. ever can you name that man?
It's not a rookie.
No, far from a rookie.
Far from a rookie. Oh, is it Adam Phelan?
No, it was Julian Edelman.
Ah, right.
Julian Edelman had more, I think it was yards and scrummage with Cam Newton than he had with his best mate, bosom buddy, Kentucky Derby hero mate, Tom Brady. Unbelievable. Like, doesn't even make sense. Brain doesn't compute. Not possible. What are we talking about? Boy, that New England Seattle game was fun, and those two teams don't play fun games, but they do this year. And if you've got a New England Patriots running back in your fantasy team, get rid of them immediately. They are a waste of time. Cam Newton takes all rushes from the 5 yards in. You will never score a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't know what Sony Michel is bringing to the party. It may be cakes, but it's certainly not elite running back talent.
No, 6,200. I've gone for Julian Edelman. Nearly's wide receiver 3.
Anyone who's been paying attention might remember who my fancy darling was last week, and that was Traquan Smith. What did Traquan Smith do? Oh, just 5 receptions on 7 targets for 86 yards, basically doing the Michael Thomas role. Manny Sanders, you say? Nah, never heard of him. There's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Traquan Smith was awesome. The Saints were not. Drew Brees has got that Peyton Manning noodle arm going for him, and I think they're going to have to put the ball in the air a bit more against the Green Bay Packers. So Traquan, if he steps in again to the Michael Thomas role, he was not priced up by DraftKings, so he's only 4,200. So 4,200 to get the New Orleans Saints wide receiver 1. I'll take it.
Nice. My wide receiver 3 is CeeDee Lamb. I thought I agreed that you needed to get someone in this matchup. I know what you're saying on target share, but if you look how CeeDee Lamb was used more in this Atlanta game, and I believe he will continue to be used more and more going into the season. So 5,400 I've gone for CeeDee Lamb.
He seems to be getting I don't like to call them layups, but he seems to be getting the more favourable situations, whereas, say, they're basically playing the percentage game with Michael Gallup on the outside.
Agreed. And then so you get more targets in PPR. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. He was more of a... He did play a lot in the slot at Oklahoma, although he played everywhere because he was, head and shoulders the best player. So, yeah, that was cool. Who's your tight end, Neil?
Tight end, I'm sticking with him. Believe the process, trust the process, listen to the process. I'm going with Logan Thomas. The Cleveland Browns cannot stop tight ends. Logan Thomas saw 9 targets, bit of a pointing line, only 4 for 26, but the Cleveland Browns cannot stop tight ends. This goes back to last season. Now, I know it's a different system, but it's mostly the same players. So we saw that Terry McLaurin is an absolute monster. But Logan Thomas is still hanging around. Just needs to find the end zone, and he's going to return value for you here. 3,700.
I've broken my rule, Neil. Tight end, 3,700. Logan Thomas, Washington. Because targets, as you said, targets. Terry McLaurin will get yards, and that's cool. But Logan Thomas will get targets, and if he gets targets near the end zone, maybe he catches one. And for 3,700, it made perfect sense. Who's your flex, Neil?
Joshua Kelly, 5,000. Charges v the Carolina Panthers.
Neil, do you know what 12 personnel is?
Yeah, it's 2 tight ends. What the Eagles live in.
Oh yes. Let me stat you up. The Eagles played 12 personnel 81% of the time in week 2. The next closest team used it 31% of the time. That's, for those who aren't good at math, that is 50% difference. According to DVOA, the Philadelphia Eagles have the worst offense in the NFL, and the NFL includes the New York Football Jets and the Washington Football Team. However, my flex is Dallas Goedert, 4,900 against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, we'll skate over the fact that yet again you're picking a tight end and you flex, but which you continue. You're obviously just not listening. The Golladay should see significant target. He is the more dynamic of the two tight ends at the moment, as Zach Ertz seems to be morphing into mid-career Jason Witten, i.e. catch ball, fall down. And also the Eagles probably going to have to lean on 12 personnel again because, as luck would have it, Jalen Reagor is likely to be missing for 6 to 8 weeks. So they're down on wide receivers again. They are ramping up to Sean Jackson's snap share for God knows what, but hopefully he might see a few more this week because it's likely going to have to be him and JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So, yeah, we're going to see a lot of Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert on the field. Probably a lot of Miles Sanders as well, but I can't knock if you're going to take an Eagles tight end taking Goedert over Ertz. One day we will sit down and thrash out why you do not pick tight ends in the flex, for God's sake.
But I'm not picking a tight end in the flex. I'm picking someone who's on the field 81% of the time. I'm picking someone who is one of the 3 players on the field who will get touches. Doesn't matter what number he's got. Doesn't matter what position he's in. He's on the field all the flipping time.
And you will use this to justify when you pick a tight end next week? Is this what you're saying?
No, I won't. But I wasn't going to pick him, and then I realised that I had a load of cool stats about how the Eagles were shit on offense, and I hadn't used it yet. So there you go. What's your defense and special teams, Neil?
Do we not think I know all this about the Eagles tight end anyway? What position do I follow?
No, I know you do. I know you do.
The Eagles are among the tight end leaders.
I know you do, but you're not going to give negative stats as you tried to suggest that the 0-2 Eagles who lost to Washington and the Rams who you slagged off for 18 months are going to go to the NFC title game because they did it once in 2003 when they had Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb as their quarterback. So, no, I didn't think you were going to bring up negative stats about the Philadelphia Eagles. Colour me shocked.
My defense is the Los Angeles Chargers. They're 3,600. The defense is very good. They still have a Bosa on the defensive line. Melvin Ingram looks nasty. And the Panthers, they're airing it out. They don't look... They look about as stable as a Russian nuclear reactor. Let's put it that way.
Who regrets signing the contract more? Teddy Bridgewater or the New Orleans Saints?
I think the Saints, as I think Teddy Bridgewater has been brought in to do exactly the job he's doing.
Correct. My defense is the Arizona Cardinals because they're playing the Detroit Lions and they stink. And they'll probably do something stupid. Do you know why? Because that's what the Detroit Lions do. And the Cardinals' defense was 3,300.
Do you know last week, by the way, was the first time in 9 games that playing at Lambeau Field that Adrian Peterson didn't score a touchdown?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
What if he wants to score touchdowns at Lambeau Field? Though he shouldn't have signed for the Detroit Lions.
No, this is it. He can score them. For Minnesota, obviously scored them for fun. I think scored there last year for Washington as well. Yes. But just to show you how bad Detroit is and how bad the juju around the Lions is, you've got to... Hey, that's a nice touchdown streak you got going. Be a shame if something happened to it.
Let's recap, Neil. Who's your quarterback?
Dak Prescott.
I've got Kyler Murray. Running back 1.
Running back 1 is Jonathan Taylor. Long may he reign.
I've got Austin Eckler. Running back 2.
Miles Sanders.
I've got David Montgomery. Wide receiver 1.
Wide receiver 1 is Amari Cooper.
I've got Calvin Ridley. Wide receiver 2.
Tyler Lockett.
I've got Julian Edelman. Wide receiver 3.
Wide receiver 3 is Tre'Quan Smith.
I've got C.D. Lamb. Who's your tight end, Neil?
Loto.
I've also got him. Who's your flex?
Joshua Kelly.
I've got Eagles wide receiver Dallas Goedert, and Neil, who's your defence and special teams?
The Chargers.
Fantastic. Neil, that's the show. Before we come back next week, where can people catch you?
Catch me on Twitter at Nutton13. Say the usual stuff out this week. The stats from last week that you've still got time for them to be in relevance. At Numberfire, the updated Super Bowl odds series I'm doing for Numberfire. The tight end report for Rotoviz. Also, I have I did the snap count analysis for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to be doing that after every game. That's for Ravenswire. Also this week, so far, I've done 7 fun facts about the Ravens v Chiefs. And that was for Ravenswire. And Blessed and Chiefswire have tweeted out as well. So I'm getting double the exposure there.
Double the exposure all the time. Usually get arrested for that kind of shizzle. But anyway, on Friday, Saturday, you can catch Mainz' musings for week 3. Hopefully slightly better than one of my thoughts this week, where I laughed at the fact that Pete Carroll will be a gunslinger for more than 1 week. Boy, was I wrong there, as Russell Wilson started throwing bombs to DK Metcalf. What I was right was how quick a season has been over. Has it been over as fast as the Jets? I reckon their season was over after 12 minutes and 28 seconds of week 1. Some stat. Wow. But yeah. That's it for me. I am at Mainzy7. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. If you want to speak to us, drop us a line. We're always willing to chat. And until then, and until next week, these top guys are out.